With an almighty kick, the ball soared into the sky. Cody Dunbar's left leg remained extended as he watched the ball float high overhead. It disappeared momentarily against the morning sun. He judged the distance, as his uncle had taught him, took 2 steps forward and leapt into the air. In his mind, he could hear the crowd scream from the stands of the SCG as he rose over the shoulders of the other players to take the mark. It was awesome. For just a moment he knew what it felt like to be Adam Goodes, the world's best AFL player. He felt tall, proud, loved. Cody moved with a grace that he didn't yet understand. At 14 years old, he was already bigger than most of his mates. The older guys in town gave him a bit of grief, hassled him for the sake of it, but he wasn't afraid of them. He could handle himself, and they knew it. But he was growing so fast, he'd need a new Sydney Swans jersey soon. The one he was wearing cut him in the armpits. He'd have to ask his auntie when the time was right. Of course, if she knew he was ditching school to play football in the dry creek bed on the outskirts of town again, all he would get would be a cuff over the head. He broke into a steady run as he turned onto Terence Road, dodging imaginary Hawks players who came at him from all sides in a well-rehearsed play his uncle had shown him. He had the whole street to work with. Forbes Creek was a dwindling settlement, barely a dot on the map of Central Australia, 120 kilometres southeast of Alice Springs. No cars came out this way unless they were lost. Every 15 metres or so, he'd push the ball against the bitumen. It had to be on just the right angle so the ball would bounce back into his hands without having to alter his stride. He weaved back and forth across the road. On either side, beyond rusting wire fences, were vacant weatherboard houses, decaying in the sun, broken windows, collapsed verandas, dusty yards littered with empty beer bottles. Seemed to Cody like the town was getting smaller every year. Some blokes went away for work, some were locked up, some just died in their homes. He had grown up with most of the families who once lived in those houses. He didn't like to think about it, because it made him angry. He didn't hate the town, he just wished it could be different. He'd promised his aunt and uncle that he'd get out one day, become an AFL star as big as Adam Goodes. Then he'd come back and make it all better. Everyone would have Swannies jerseys no matter how quick they grew. And the Swannies and the Hawks would play a match in town every year on a grassy field that would be named in his honour. He had told his mates Teddy and Yambo he'd meet them down by Harley's Bridge as soon as they could get clear of the principal. He'd ducked out of school earlier than usual, so he'd have time to mark out the field and clear away the branches that may have blown down from the gum trees along the bank during the night. The rest of the guys would hopefully get there by mid-morning. They might even have enough players for a full game. He slowed to a trot as the road petered out to gravel, then dust. He moved across the scrub to the shade of the gums along the edge of the creek bed. Beyond the far bank, the surrounding desert made its presence felt. Bare ochre and low-lying grasses as far as the eye could see, all beneath a vast expanse of blue sky. He jogged along the right bank until it slowly turned east towards Harley's Bridge. He stopped and leaned against a tree to catch his breath, waving the flies away from his face. The air was stifling and still. It was going to be a stinker playing in this heat, but he was still excited. It was then that he picked up a scent lingering in the air, sharp, penetrating, but distant. Too difficult to tell exactly where it was coming from. A dead roo, he thought. Must be nearby. Probably hit by a car on the road to Alice, or winged by someone with a .22 during the night. It must have limped onto the creek bed and got finished off by wild dogs. He continued along the bank. Within a few metres he realised the smell was too strong for a dead roo. Cattle, maybe? He looked across the sandy creek bed, expecting to see the dehydrating carcass of a cow that had collapsed down the opposite bank in a final fruitless attempt to find water. Only sand and the stillness of gum trees. Somewhere deep in Cody's mind, a darkness was beginning to swirl. He knew this smell. A fear crept over his skin, and with it came the images that had plagued his sleep for so long he couldn't remember a time when they hadn't. His feet grew cold, his mouth dry. He was walking into his father's house again. The stench had greeted him at the fly-screen door. It filled his nostrils and mouth and wouldn't leave. The TV was blaring from the living room, as it always did, but it was jarring with an unfamiliar stillness to the house. He wanted to run, to yell out to his father from the safety of the front yard. Was he drawn by the sound of the TV? The fetid smell? He still didn't know what led him deeper into the house. into that room. To this day he wished someone had been there to hold him back, to prevent him from seeing that. He had never been able to find words to describe what was sitting on his father's couch. Too young to comprehend the feeling of being alone in the company of death, only sensing the horror of it all. He stepped slowly along the bank of the creek, treading carefully over the exposed roots of gum trees. The flies became more insistent, trying to settle on his lips. He put his hand over his mouth and nose. The stench was now almost unbearable, so hideously familiar. He realized that it was his increasing sense of dread that was actually compelling him forward, when every fibre of his being wanted him to run in the opposite direction. He had to be close. The pale trunk of a large, established gum tree blocked his view of the bank further on. Cody pinched his nose, took a deep breath, and stepped around the tree. His ball fell to the ground, bounced once, then rolled awkwardly over the edge of the bank. An elderly white man was climbing out of the creek. His eyes were screwed shut, but his mouth was open, gasping for air. He was clutching at the sand as if something was dragging him back down. He didn't make a sound. Cody stepped back and leaned against the tree because he couldn't trust his legs to hold him up. The man was naked except for a soiled pair of underpants that were once white. A seething swarm of flies covered his thighs. Cody picked up a branch. The fear was receding, replaced by a dull anger that it had happened again. He wouldn't scream this time. He poked at the man's shoulder. It didn't move. He poked it harder, gritting his teeth with contempt. The entire body shifted slightly in the sand, and the flies rose up in an angry, chaotic mess. Cody stared at the man's thighs, at the torn flesh and bare bones. His legs had been ripped off. A familiar sound erupted from the young boy's throat as he fell to his knees and scrabbled across the dust to get away.